Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Misplay podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Tyler.
And it's been far too long since we've done an episode of
Way too long. This will be the longest break since episodes for no reason.
Maybe it probably been 4 or 5 months.
Over.
I want to say.
Surely. Because I think the last one we did was at the last tournament.
You know what happened? Because we do want to talk about the tournament video that has just gone out, because that was extremely fun.
Yep.
It's the funnest period of YGO for us too.
100%.
But I think in the last episode we did, a portion of that we're talking about Grand Archive. Because we're talking about game mechanics, things like that. So obviously that was a very long time ago.
And that was supposed to come out between these recordings.
Yeah, and I believe it shipped, which I completely forgot about. So I need to check up on that.
Watch that come when I'm on holiday.
Oh, I probably will. And the willpower it's going to take for me not to open that shit.
You cannot rip it because we got to open it together.
For those that don't know, I struggle with willpower.
Yeah.
Like, if I've got something in front of me, like if I've got a booster box, because I think we've bought a booster box before, and generally you work in the CBD where you can get it.
Yeah.
So you pick it up, I give you the money, and then I quite like that, because if I did that, you know how much I would struggle to
just rip it.
Yeah, like, bro, I can't.
I would literally just put it down and like, yeah, okay, that's for later.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I'd be like itching like a crack fiend. I'm like, brother, you got to get here.
I think it depends. I've got my other crack.
Oh,
well, the only crack you care about is the crack in front of you.
Yeah, that shows what kind of crack fiend I am, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. You're all cracked out.
Yeah. To be fair, there is no crack in this household.
No, we don't smoke crack.
Yeah, so the tournament video just went up, so thank you to everyone which has showed love to that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Very, very exciting time. I was crowned the champion.
Unfortunately, I think you cheated a few times, but
there was one time, it was an accident. Neither of us picked up on it.
Neither of us picked up on it. And it's interesting, because that was a very close game.
It was a very close game. And I messaged you as I was editing that.
Yeah.
Because I obviously had to edit all the life points and stuff, and I was like, I saw it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have your Masquerade or Dramaturge, whatever. And I'm like, how the fuck could I activate Shark Cannon? So I illegally activated Shark Cannon because I controlled a monster in the main monster zone. Took one of yours with Widow Anchor.
Yeah.
And neither of us picked up on it.
No.
And it completely just went by.
Yep.
But it was in game 3, and it was close.
Yep.
And we had...
This were like your best deck against one of my bottom tiers.
Yeah. And like there were a couple other misplays, or maybe 3 misplays throughout the tournament, but they were so minor that I didn't bother picking up on them.
Yep.
But this one was just so big that I was like, I messaged you and I was like, I feel like shit.
Do you remember what I said?
You said don't dwell on it or something.
Yeah, it's essentially like it's fine, right? Like there's no way to tell whether that would have changed the outcome. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. But it's one of the things where it's like, obviously there is no cheating in us. There's always an honor system.
Yeah.
But somehow that was missed.
We were just so invested because I remember game 3 was just bricks from both of us, and we were so like, how do we set one pass in game 3 of a tournament with some of our most tested decks? Yeah,
it's rough, and I especially don't know how it was missed, because you and I have been playing Sky Striker for like 3 years at this point, right?
Forever.
Like that's always been a rule. It's not a new rule. Shark Cannon came out when the deck came out.
Here's how it was missed. You never have monsters in the main monster zone.
No, I try and avoid it as much as possible.
And that's how it's missed.
Yeah, I just assumed,
because
I can play.
Here's the thing. I've never read Sky Striker card effects. I either didn't know or completely forgot you couldn't activate them if there's monster in the main monster zone. Because you never do it. And I never read your cards.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at the game.
Yeah. I mean, so we've got so many decks, like 2... And we've called half of them. Yeah. So like to my left, that's off camera, I think there's 15 decks there. Yeah. Which is a lot. But there used to be like 30, 35.
There used to be a tower.
Yeah. So we've culled a lot of them, but it's still, I need to know how to play every one, because going into the tournament, can't afford to misplay. Neither of us can.
Yeah. And I want to say this tournament, we had the least amount of misplays we've ever had.
Agreed.
And it was the shortest tournament. But it was it was a very close one. So for those who haven't seen the video, please go watch. We're not going to do spoilers. But there was...
I mean, we just did spoil it.
Well, we're not going to spoil like the matchups or how each thing went. But there was a run. There was a run of one deck.
That was a fun run, yeah.
Where it went through a gauntlet. And I remember coming back when we first had the idea for the tournament. We're like, "Oh, what happens if one deck on one side makes the end and all the ones from the other side, or they got to go through a gauntlet?" And that never really happened until last time.
Yeah, it was a really good showing as well because obviously without spoiling it, but like you were confident.
Yeah,
Like I was like, there's no way this deck is going to get through all these other decks that I've got.
yeah.
And you were like, yeah, it can.
Yeah, it can.
And
It
you
absolutely can.
completely changed my mind on it because it was like one set at a time. That's all you had to do.
Yeah.
It was your best deck easily.
Yeah.
And it had me worried because you beat like 2 or 3 decks with that. I think it was 2 decks. You won 2 sets in a row, and it came to game 3 on the third set.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was worried.
Yeah.
But the deck that made the run, despite me being the champion, that particular deck we crowned as the MVP.
Yeah. Because
despite it losing.
Despite it eventually losing, because it came to game 3, and if I took that game 3 on the third one, I was so confident, and you were downtrodden. I can see it going all the way.
Yeah, I'd be shaking in my boots at that point because I was already nervous going to game 3 with that matchup.
I feel like if we ran that matchup again, there's a chance I could have won. And it wasn't like, oh, it was overpowered. It was like, I just feel like that deck that I had, and we talked about it, we deliberated, like, do we give a losing deck MVP? But it just felt right.
That was the weird thing, because the next best deck that I had was Exo Sister.
Correct.
And that won 2 sets in a row. It performed very, very good.
Yes.
But your deck just, despite it losing, it won more sets, and it really proved to be the heavy hitter of the tournament.
Correct.
So it was like, there's no reason not to give it to. If I gave it to Exo or any other deck I had, it wouldn't have felt right.
It wouldn't have felt right. Yeah. And I wouldn't, begrudge you if we gave it to Exo. Exo was a strong deck, but the deck, again, we're dancing around it.
I'm
Please
not
go watch
saying
the video.
the deck that we gave MVP to.
But it just showed out. And it deserved it.
What would you say was card of the tournament? So when I say that, 'cause we've not spoken about this before, in June 2022, our first Misplay tournament, I would say it was Raigeki.
Yes.
Raigeki just ran rampant and would just clear boards.
Yeah.
And at that time, we would struggle to build it quickly enough.
Yeah.
Now it's not an issue.
Yeah.
In December, not December 22, it was a tournament before. In June 22, it was Warning Point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first Misplay tournament, sorry. So the one before that, which we didn't film, was Raigeki.
Yeah.
Because that just went to 3 at that point. And then in June 2022, it was Warning Point. It was absolutely insane. Super powerful card. Just being able to stop me from using materials was rough.
Yeah.
Was there a particular card in this tournament that you felt stand out? Because I do have something to say on this. It's not the card of the tournament, but I do think it shows how powerful these cards are. We generally don't run hand traps.
Yeah.
You ran one singular hand trap in one deck.
That I forgot was in there.
It was Effect Veiler.
Yeah.
Came up multiple times.
Yeah.
Helped sealed sets.
Yeah. And it's interesting because if I remember what was in there, I probably would have taken it out.
Yeah. But the fact it was in, and it was a good showcase, so I'm like, that's how powerful hand traps are.
Yes. And Effect Veiler is seen as one of the weakest hand traps. It is not running meta play. Why would you use it? Right? It's an effect that can be usually is replicated by your monsters or anything on the field, but it's like, oh, Effect Veiler, monster effect negated.
Yeah, and it came up. The one came up multiple times.
Do you know the one that was comboed with it the most? The other singular card I ran?
Oh, I know that it was in the same fucking deck.
Same deck. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. BLS.
BLS. Just plain BLS. I need to get that.
Not ritual BLS.
Not ritual, yes. But Blackluster Soldier, and I run a single card of it in the MVP deck, and it just constantly came up, and it was always useful. And it's just a fun tech card. I remember finding this tech, and not like I found the random BLS tech card. Obviously, it's BLS, everyone knows of it. But I remember trying it in this. I'm like, oh, this actually works really well because I have, some dead cards in the graveyard. I'm like, oh, this helps well for spot removal. Because the biggest thing in this deck, it has decent spot removal, so I just want to kind of keep clearing that. And it just worked.
It worked really well.
It just worked.
It came out twice, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And every time I think it won. Every time it came out.
Every time it came out, I won.
Which was really good to see. It proves, it's always satisfying when you throw in a tech card, which isn't egregious, but absolutely helps the win condition.
100%. If I ran more than one BLS, it would be bricky, it would be shit, and it would never be that useful. I just run one. It's not even a power card. All it does is just remove one card on the field.
Yeah, but it's a free monster on the board.
I could run a Raigeki in its place, realistically.
Yeah.
But I chose BLS because it just fits. It kind of works.
Yeah, and sometimes the banish is a bit stronger as
And
well.
sometimes the banish is a bit stronger. And it's, like you said, it's not egregious. It's not a meta card. It was 50 cents.
But I don't think, because obviously, yeah, the BLS and the Effect Veiler were super strong, and they were both one-offs.
Yeah.
I don't, and maybe because my brain is just crap at remembering things, but I don't recall a card like Raigeki or Warning Point that were ran in so many decks that came up every single time. Those were really the only two standout cards, despite being one-offs and in one deck. Those came out every time and helped seal the game.
I think you're right. They're the two standout cards, right?
Yeah.
From the previous, we think of Warning Point, which like, wow, Warning Point. We think of Raigeki, and then it just like, anytime, down in our luck, heart of the cards, Raigeki, boom. But this, really, it was those two in one deck.
Yeah,
There wasn't any staple that we shared. They're like, this is a perfect Twin Twist. This is a perfect Monster Reborn. It's like, sick, Effect Veiler.
Because I was taking notes before this tournament. Because I was like, I had a whole list of like, do you remember when we were doing the Low Block podcast?
Yep. Great podcast. Go listen to it.
My favorite time of the year.
Especially the Bucks episode.
Yeah, for whatever reason, y'all have been watching the Bucks episode out of nowhere last month. But for my favorite time of the year for the Low Block, which is just an NBA podcast we did, was the Blockies.
The
which was our
Blockies.
award show for the NBA.
Yeah.
So it was about giving our personal take on existing awards, but creating new awards, which we feel should be represented as well.
Yeah.
And for the sake of conversation.
Such a great series.
I did a similar thing for the tournament. I took notes.
Yeah.
But some of those things I took notes on, I wouldn't have an answer to for this tournament because this tournament just felt so different in so many ways. Like I said, there wasn't a reoccurring card that was ran across the board, like Warning Point and Raigeki.
True.
Despite those still being ran, Warning Point did still come up, but
wasn't as pivotal.
Same with the Raigeki. Usually when we landed Raigeki this tournament, you built board again. Like, I would use Raigeki all the time against Despia.
Yeah.
Masquerade kept coming back. Aluba was there to help make play again, and I had to try and stop Aluba. It felt like every time I used Raigeki, it made you react, and it forced me to have to use resources to react to your reaction.
It's interesting the way our decks have changed, that they're able to recur a lot more. A lot of our decks are grinding out, and they can rebuild board. Where prior, we would have these super strong boards, but once they're broken, they're broken.
Yeah.
And we still have some decks like that. Rocket, Sword Soul. But a lot of them can recur, kind of them come back.
Yes.
It's turned from like heavyweights throwing haymakers to two counterpunchers dancing with each other.
Do you remember when Raigeki went to 3 and
Yeah.
we were having a text message exchange?
Yeah.
And I remember you were really worried that it was going to fuck up our meta completely.
Absolutely.
And this was the very first time we brought up the idea.
Yeah.
It got shot down pretty quickly, but the idea got brought up of maybe we need to make our own ban list for our meta because we run everything pure.
We run a different, essentially, meta. Everything has to be pure, no out of archetype in the extra deck. So essentially, a lot of those cards are essentially banned anyway.
Yeah. But it got shot down because, like, then where does it stop?
Yes.
If we limit Raigeki still, what else do we limit? And it's
And what do we unlimit?
right.
Delinquent Duo might not be busted in our meta.
It could be fair. Who knows?
But then that's like we would have to spend a year
Yeah.
perfecting our own balance.
So we agree that, like, let's see how it goes.
yes.
And it does feel good to see that, like, I have a couple decks that run Raigeki at 3, maybe a third on its way. Raigeki is being played quite heavily between the two of us.
Correct.
But it hasn't ever felt unfair.
Correct.
Because most of our decks can now rebuild those boards quite quickly. And it feels like Raigeki to 3 was the right thing to do.
Correct. Yes. And it shows that people at Konami know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. This is
Really?
why, like, Konami know what they're doing with the ban list. Sometimes I don't know what they're doing, like Telements, for example. That's a bit wacky.
No, they knew what they were doing. They just want to print money.
Oh, that's
They just want
true.
to print money. They're going to get banned. They've already been banned, and they're going to get banned again. They're going to get limited and fucking,
Yeah.
But they just wanted to print money. And they did.
Sometimes Konami will create an archetype, but they will forget to include... Well, no, they will intentionally leave out the balance team.
Yes.
They're just locked out of the room.
Slip it in.
Yep.
Hey, balance team, you test these 5 archetypes and 5 new cards we're adding. Don't worry about what we got behind our backs.
It's nothing special.
Yeah.
That's Zodiacs and Telements.
That's Zodiacs and Telements.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Did you see the post on Reddit? It's like someone buying the Kashtira stuff before the Photon Hypernova came out. Like
Mm.
full deck ready to go, early cards, early boxes, like 3 of everything before the box technically released. And someone's like, can you imagine paying $600 just to lose the elements?
It's true though.
It's fucking
There
true.
is no lie to that. Even the so in regard talking AUD, of course.
Yep. And that was USD.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The Kashtira, because the retailer we generally buy singles from when we need everything.
Yep.
They will put up play sets of everything for that set. That Kashtira set was going for, I think, close to $800 AUD, which is insane to me because you're right. It's Kashtira isn't going to compete against Telemans
unless Telemans get bad. But then Kashtira is so cracked that they're the top dog.
They could be. Like I don't understand why I'm seeing such a high price tag for Kashtira. Like, I know we don't follow the meta closely. I will keep up to date with it because we know what the top dog is. It's Telemans. But there's nowhere on the board that suggests Kashtira is a real threat. Even in the OCG, it hasn't been a real threat. They're tech cards which you throw in as small engines as spot removal and forces interaction with your opponent. Why would you spend $800 AUD on a set which you can't even run all of it because it's an engine?
The only thing I'm thinking is that when Telemans get banned, Kashtira will be the top dog in the TCG, so they're prepping.
It's a gamble, right?
It's a gamble. And because if it does, their prices go up even higher.
Yep.
Because then it's not, you're paying $800 to get 2-0'd by Telemans. Now it's, that guy paid $800 and now he's 2-0ing everyone.
Yeah, now it's $1,600.
You buy in on the
doubles,
rookie,
right?
expecting them to be an all-star.
Yep. Yeah, no, and I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's hoping that Telemans get hit quite hard and that Kashtira works out.
I mean, Telemans should be hit quite hard.
They should be.
Kashtira probably should be touched as well.
I don't know.
Or do you reckon they'll just, like Adventure, like Sprite, just time will even them out?
Kashtira is a thing because when they first got announced in the OCG,
we were like, what is this?
We both agreed we wouldn't play it. Just the on-card effects were busted. They searched themselves.
There's 3 effects and they're all incredible.
They will banish face down. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is a lot. Banishing face down is the best removal.
And they special summon from the hand.
Yes. It's a lot. And we thought they would be absolutely wild and they got overshadowed by even Sprite.
Yeah.
Let alone Telemans. Like, Sprite is still great right now. They're the second best deck still. Kashtira just really haven't made waves. They kind of play the new Pankratops role, where they summon themselves and they force your opponent to react.
That's weird.
Right? It's just a power creep. Pankratops, because most people don't run a lot more. I know that much about them. I know enough about the meta to know that Kashtira isn't this crazy big engine. It's very small.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You run 3 Fenrir, and
right?
then whatever else you need for the engine.
Yeah. So I don't know where that price tag is coming from. It's shocking because I spent I brought my Springens monster, the new XCs. I was super excited about. That was $10, by the way. That's a fucking lot for a Springens monster. Yeah. That's the most expensive.
That's a lot to get
monster.
2-0'd by Vampire,
right? Yeah. But I was happy about that, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm spending $30 on a playset." And then I remember I see that set of Kashtira cards. I'm like, "Y'all spending $800 just to lose to Telemans." Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm spending $30 to lose to Vampire, but I'm not spending $800.
Yeah,
right?
True. There's a jump there.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. I still think in our meta they'd be fucked. I still think they're too cracked.
So I messaged you, and I was like, if you want to build Kashtira, go for it. Because I know you love the aesthetic.
I think the aesthetic's so cool.
Yeah, I do think they're really cool as well. But, like, we've been managing to handle Telemans because it's pure.
We've talked about this, on, like... Because I've been interested in Telemans for a long time. I think the art style is really cool, and I was enjoying the play style. And the way I tested them at first, I didn't know what I was doing, and partially I still don't. And I just send everything in the graveyard and I build a board somehow. And because I run them pure, and because I can't afford... Because it's a budget and it's pure. I can't afford the field spell. I can't afford to get 3 of all the extra deck. It's literally like I play on a very tight budget. And we've been able to handle them. Yes, they can go toe-to-toe with every deck, but they have bad matchups.
They're generally the favor to win each
Correct.
set for
Correct.
the most part, unless
Which
it's
is still kind of
Exorcist.
scary.
Yes, but it's like I've won
They're
plenty
not-
of times.
Yes, they're not unbeatable.
No, they're not unbeatable, and it's because you can't go into degenerate out of extra deck shit.
Correct. Because I am locked to T elements, and because I can't play, was it Azuzu?
You don't do a Shuzu.
Yeah.
Isuzu, I think, is a car
It's the
brand.
car brand. I just love saying it. But I can't go into Isuzu. I can't go into out of archetype decks, so I have to rely on the T element stuff, which typically each of them are hard ones per turn. So I have like 4 cards. I can typically do 4 fusions a turn, unless I hard fusion.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but then locks me into that. And without the field spell, I can't continue to make plays. So with budget and with pure, they are manageable. But can you imagine if I didn't have to go budget and I could get 3 of the field spell and I ran, because technically in our meta, I could run a Shuzu in the main deck.
No, you could.
Yeah.
It's just price is, I think, a big thing stopping.
But would they be unstoppable in our meta? Maybe.
I don't think so, because I still think being limited to the Telements extra deck is the biggest thing that keeps decks in check.
Yep.
Because a lot of their decks run a lot of the Predaplant fusions because they're super powerful.
Yeah.
It's just they make better use of them than
Fusion good
Predaplant
stuff,
do.
essentially.
It's the new version of Fusion Good Stuff, except instead of having to do Fusion Good Stuff in my turn, it's our turn.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them super, super powerful, in my opinion. So I do think if you wanted to experiment with Ishizu cards, I think it'll just help make sure that you can fusion more often.
I fusion too much as it is.
That's I'm scrambling to stop those fusions.
Yeah.
And maybe Ishizu helps you play through a little bit more. That's what I see.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the Ishizu cards because I don't have anything. I don't need to even really
We've never
deal with
needed
them.
to look. We've never needed.
But I do think being limited to a certain extra deck is one of the main things that keeps decks in check in our meta.
It absolutely does, and it really is. Because imagine if for like trap tricks, I could do trap tricks into Zeus.
Yeah, like it's all of a sudden I'm versing a different beast.
You're difficult. It's a whole nother game plan. Any Xyz deck becomes a Zeus deck.
It's exactly what I was going to say, because at that moment, any deck that has Xyz monsters that come out regularly, all of a sudden it's a Zeus deck.
Yep.
Or any Synchro deck becomes a Baron de Fleur deck.
What was that bird? The bird you
The
played?
Lyralist deck.
Yeah, now that's Zeus.
Yeah, now that's Zeus.
And that Xyz is easier than any deck ever.
Yeah. Like it's fun. Like if you, and I say this all the time, at least off camera, it's if you're versing Harpies, you're versing Harpies.
Yeah.
You're not versing Baron de Fleur. You're not versing weird Sword Soul cards in the extra deck, because I could probably bring them out at some point. And
I'm
if you're
versing the best that Harpies can do with Harpies.
Exactly. And that's why it's so exciting. It's like when Harpies do good, like they're still in B tier in our meta. And I've had Harpies since we started playing.
Yeah.
And it feels really good to see them. They're still in B competing. And it's the best that Harpies can offer.
And it's a lot more exciting when you get a new archetype card. Because for a lot of meta decks, you could get an out of like, let's say I was a big Trap Tricks player 2 years ago, and then Zeus gets announced like, oh, this makes Trap Tricks so much better. But with us, it's like, oh, new Trap Tricks card. Oh, that makes Trap Tricks so much better.
Right.
It makes these archetypal support cards so much more interesting.
What would you say? Because you're quite aware of what decks I play, especially with the tournaments.
Correct.
Out of the last 12 months, what would you say is the single most pivotal card that's been printed for an archetype I have? Because I absolutely have my answer for me.
12 months.
Within the last 12 months.
My timeline's kind of rough. When was Mutant?
Mutant was in the last 12 months, I believe.
Mutant.
Okay. I'm going to disagree.
You're going to say
But
Circular.
Yes. Circular, because Mutant hasn't changed the deck. It's provided more consistency.
But yeah, Circular has turned from unsleeved to King of B.
Yeah, like they're back in. They phenomenal with one card. So when a card like that is announced, like you said, it's not just, oh, these can help these decks. It's, oh, this brings back a certain archetype.
Rika Konkon.
Rika Konkon.
Same thing.
Konkon has been huge.
Yeah.
It's been a whole thing, because now it's I think it's better than Circular, because Circular allows me to play differently, but you don't have to play around it.
Yeah.
Konkon, all of a sudden, I have to play completely differently against Rika,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one card, and that's why it gets super exciting when these announcements are made because it can shift our entire meta
Yeah, absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
everything is pure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes these tournament videos so exciting is that you see the best of a pure math mate. You see the best of a pure whatever archetype we run because we go through new decks often, we cull new decks often, we get new decks. It's slowing down a little bit now because we've gone through most of the
Yeah,
archetypes.
we've gone through a lot.
But even like one of my favorite decks, Live Twin, has been the same for around a year now. Literally, the cards in there have not changed. But new support's coming out between now and the next tournament. Is it one card? Yes. But is it absolutely going in there and it changes half the deck? Yeah, absolutely.
And all of a sudden, I've got to play under new rules.
Under new rules,
right?
essentially. So you got new tax to pay. So it's really interesting. And that's why we love the tournament. It's why we put so much effort into the tournament. And this tournament video is half the time of the other one. The original tournament video was 5 hours. This one's like two and a half
hours.
And it was an absolute breeze to record. We did, with our commentary with this one, we actually did a slightly different style of commentary. The first one that went up was purely play-by-play, essentially 5 hours.
80% of it was
80% of it play-by-play. This one is 50% play-by-play, 50%
shooting the shit
podcast-style commentary. And if you like it, let us know because it was a breeze to record.
It was a lot of fun because play-by-play gets stale, especially when you're playing sets.
Yes.
And there's so many matchups.
God, with a 5-hour audio recording we did for the original tournament, as much as I enjoy it because I enjoy creating content, it was still, you get tired, you get drained, you have to remember exactly what's happening, you have to remember your mindset. With this one, it was just like we were just hanging out. And that's the style of video we like having on the channel, is just, we're all essentially hanging out. Me, Josh, you guys, we're just hanging out playing some card games.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, super fun. That's ideally what we're going to go for in the future. But yeah, if you guys have not watched the tournament video, please go watch it.
Please do. The audio quality is a lot better than last time, despite no changes. It just sounds so much crisper.
Adam's seal of approval.
Yeah. Big seal approved from the big A.
No, with the big A, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so load of fun. We do those twice a year. Do you remember when we were going to do a scrub tournament?
Yeah, we put a lot of time and effort into that, and then schedules happened, and we just couldn't line anything up. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, the scrub tournament was essentially the same exact format as the Misplay tournaments that you guys have seen, except it's with our shitty decks.
Yeah, and it was going to be like 4 aside.
Yeah. It was going to be a lot smaller, a lot more fun in a way because it doesn't matter who wins.
There's no pressure, yeah.
But then we got to a point where like there's a lot of money in this hobby as it is.
Yes.
YGO is a very expensive hobby. And I did not want to invest money into these shitty decks for them to compete. Because they weren't going to. And it felt like a waste of money. Like, I have Springans. I love Springans. I will always have Springans. They're not there to compete. They're there because I love them. But I didn't love Gimmick Puppet. I didn't love all these other shitty decks I had.
And then you have to invest time into making sure they're efficient. Right. And that takes time away from A, other decks, B, other hobbies, and just life in general.
I think a big reason why we saw so little misplays in this tournament was because we have been dedicating less time to those shitty decks.
100%. We've done culls across the board. You went from like 30 to 15. I went from around 20 to 12 decks in total. And we're just spending less time on worse decks and more time playing the decks we love. So we're just more locked in. Even if like, I feel like as much as we were concentrating in that in the last tournament, the first tournament we ever did, so before the misplay, that was the hardest we've ever concentrated.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And we had one set that I think took like 2 hours, but we were still fresher on those days because they were newer. So we had to actually think about every single potential decision. But
those are so fun.
It was so fun. It was so fun. We loved making it. We love filming it. We love playing it. We love recording the audio. We love the comments you guys saying. Yeah. Just knowing that another person might go and watch it after listening to this makes me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the first one did well.
And the first one did well. So if this one could do just as well or even better, that absolutely makes our day. Yeah. It's the reason we still put out content because you guys enjoy it.
It's fun to do as well. Like it's
fun to do.
It's a hobby for us regardless.
Yes.
So,
but we'll move on for the tournament because we have been talking about it.
I did want to ask one question because I wanted to end the tournament talk on one question.
Go for it.
What was your matchup of the tournament?
Despia Sky Striker.
Despia Sky Striker?
Yeah.
Why that one? I wasn't expecting that
Because
answer.
Despia was a newer deck, and they've gone through changes from I originally want him to be a going second, like kill you deck, to a go first. And watching you struggle with Two-Toed Tony, the Tax Dragon,
Yeah, it was different.
and watching you having to play around that, having you win the first one, I think, and I won the second one. So we're down to game 3, and I could knock out your best deck with Despia, who had no expectations. And then we both just bricked.
Oh, yeah, the game 3 brick.
And it just went
Holy
brick,
shit.
brick, 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 brick. And that happened again
Yeah.
with one of the other ones. But that one was just like brick, 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 brick.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It was very interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
And it's my
because-
most memorable set.
Yeah, you know what? It's probably gonna be that for me because I remember, I think the tournament before we started the Misplay recordings, I think there was a Time Thief, Altergeist matchup,
Yes.
and I got you down to 100 life points.
Yes.
and you came back and won. The
And
set.
I came back and won.
and I was fuck that. I'll never forget that, and that's one of my favorite sets.
Yep. Yep.
And I remember the last tournament we did in June.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Dinomorphia, I think live twin
Live
matchup.
twin.
That
Yeah.
went, and I decked out.
Yeah, you decked out.
And we've never had that before.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And I think this one, I think I might agree with you. It was, despite it being a lackluster end to the first set of the tournament, which is Despia Sky Striker,
Yeah.
the fact that it was so back and forth in the first 2 duels,
Yeah, yeah.
and then brick.
Brick on both sides from decks that really didn't brick.
Yeah, I would crown that as match of the tournament because of how weird it was.
And then the misplay as well on your end, the cheat,
The cheat.
made it like adds another layer to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a messy set.
What were you going to say?
I don't know now because I think that is the right answer.
I always just think
do
of what ones I'm going to remember.
I do think part of my favorites, because that is the one I'm going to remember, because I have a lot riding on Sky Striker as well. But I do think that little run you made at the end,
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I do think that whilst it not being a particular set,
Yep.
it was a good showing, and it had me like starting to get nervous.
Do you know what K1 kickboxing is?
I've heard of it. I'm not
So
familiar with
I
it.
don't know if it's still around, but K1 was like the biggest kickboxing federation in the mid 2000s, and essentially was a tournament all on one night, where essentially it like similar to we do brackets, and like if you won the K1 Grand Prix, they called it, you would win 5 fights in a row.
Shit.
Right, and that's
That's a
kind of
lot.
what it felt like for the MVP deck. Is they're like, okay, it's Grand Prix time. I got to run the gauntlet.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm just going to go one after the other, fight after fight after fight after fight.
It's just a gladiator match.
Just a gladiator. Essentially, that's what it felt
Yeah.
like. But no, I'm with you. In terms of like a moment, I don't think about sets. I think about moments from tournaments or moments when we play. Because we don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! To special summon twice into a boss and then have you do it and me go again. We still play for those moments that we remember. Of the Altergeist comeback, the set that took us 3 hours, the deck out, the back and forth to the bricks, for the run. You know what I mean? That's the reason we still play these games, for the memories and for the moments.
Just say, every time you bring up that set in that tournament that took a very long time, it went for an hour. And then you mentioned it the first time in this podcast, it was 2 hours.
What did I
You
say this
mentioned it just then, you
Did
said
I say
3
three?
hours.
I'm an embellisher. I'm a storyteller.
Next time it'll be 12.
Yeah, look,
Spent half the
I'm here
tournament
to
playing
tell a
one
story.
set.
I'm here to tell a story. You know when your grandpa tells you a story, it's like, back in 1914, I was in the war, I killed 15.
That set started back in Vietnam.
Yeah, essentially,
Yeah.
there was hieroglyphics written about that set.
That was the tournament. Go watch it. It was
Yeah,
a lot
please
of fun.
go watch it. We'll move on topics now, because
You wanted to rant about something.
I just wanted to complain.
About purely, however you
Purely,
want
I'm going to say purely.
Okay.
Um,
I'll say purely then.
we typically like deck build sets. They've made some changes to them over the years, because we got into them at, what was that set? Mystic Fighters.
What was in Mystic Fighters?
That was the deck build set when we got into the game.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
What was in Mystic Fighters? Math
Dragon
Mech?
Maid, Math Mech, and Generator.
Oh shit, that's a good set.
And it was all super rares, ultras, secrets. All high rarity.
Hell yeah, I love that.
Then clearly Konami weren't making the money they wanted, so they rarity downed to rares, supers, ultra secrets.
I know exactly where you're going to go.
Right?
Hit me with it.
And then they're like, let's not finish the deck. And let's leave some key pieces out and put them in either the next set or the set afterwards. Typically, it's the next set. But we've still always looked forward to deck build sets, even though they've been getting progressively worse.
Yeah, like in the past, they've been huge. Like Mystic Fighters was good, Secret Slayer was great, Dark Saviors was great.
Yeah.
But some of the others just haven't hit. Like the Adventure, the one with Adventurer and Exo and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a good set, but it wasn't fun because it was filled with Inzectors, which isn't a new archetype. It's not introducing anything new.
Yeah.
And the rarities.
We have a box opening for that on the channel.
Yeah. It just wasn't a fun set, despite me loving Exo Sisters.
Correct. And then, because like we always pay attention, we saw the Amazing Defenders when it got announced. And typically, with a deck build set, I don't know how it started, but essentially, someone gets the first pick of the 3 archetypes. Then, let's say, for instance, what was the one before this? No, what was the main? Oh, it was Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Valence.
And the quick play spell
Runic.
Yep.
You got first pick on that one, and you picked Labyrinth. So then in Amazing Defenders, I would get the first pick of the archetypes. We essentially go back and forth from deck build set to deck build set. And I got the first pick in this one. I'm like, purely. Weird, cute little animal thing. And they're an Xyz deck. I love Xyz.
It's weird because you ended up building somewhat Runic and Labyrinth. I didn't build anything from that set.
Yeah.
It ended up being.
And then I'm, moved off of Runic. I'm staying with Labyrinth. But, whether we stay with them, whether we end up building them, we get first pick. We trade first pick. And I'm like, cool. Pure looks really cool. I love Xyz decks. And I actually, when they announced I got the playstyle, I was like, wow, I actually really enjoy this. They're toolboxy. Really excited for this. And then I was like, well, I'm going into them. I'm going to build them anyway. Why test them before they're out? And just before they came out and they got the new support announced in Cyber Access or whatever the next set's called.
Cyberstorm Access.
Cyberstorm Access.
Whatever.
So, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then Time Running Morganite, the weird spell card we might want to talk about at some point, got shown. And I was testing it with that. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. Cool. With this, it just works. I don't get ruined at all. And I was like, cool. Purely's out. Cool. Buy 3 of everything I play set, and they're going to be a forever deck. Get them. I test them, and they don't fucking work. And they're bricky. And in our meta, they do not work.
And that has been a reoccurring thing with these new decks, like new archetypes.
New deck build sets.
Yeah.
The decks just aren't done until the support comes out.
You're absolutely right. Like, even in terms of new archetypes that come out, like Dinomorphia was very much, I'm waiting for support.
Yes.
I'm waiting for Rex Term and Frenzy.
The deck feels half finished without the support. It's missing its boss monster or it's missing its key combo piece. And purely, if you're running them pure as purely, like without Sprite, without Melfi, without whatever, right? You'll brick. We did a set last time I was here. I was like, cool, just a quick set. I just want to get some games in. I didn't get an Xyz out.
No, I felt like I was playing Jurak on EDO.
And like, we'll probably do another set today because I brought them. I think I brought them. And I don't know if I'll get an Xyz out. If I get an Xyz out, I can do some stuff. But I don't think I'll get an Xyz out.
Here's the thing. Like, I think we agree on this, and it is just our opinion at the end of the day, considering our format, which is pure. But I do think if you're going to release an archetype specifically in a deck build set, it should be runnable as is.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're, like, I get it. If you want to throw in an engine like Invoked in another set, that's absolutely fine. You can have engine archetypes that don't need to be ran by itself. But in a deck build set, I feel like it should be runnable, easily runnable. Doesn't have to be good, but has to be runnable.
Correct.
Because that's the point of the deck build set. You want to get these packs and play.
Yeah. And do you know what's interesting? As I was looking through all the singles, and typically in a deck build set, which I really appreciate, they'll do 3 archetypes, and then they'll do a bunch of staples or support cards for that archetype. For instance, Mekanko was one of the other archetypes in here. They're almost runnable. Then they've got a crazy amount of support cards in this. From Rota to all these equip cards, to way to search equip cards, to ritual support, all this. Rescue Ace, same thing. Tons of machine support in this. Purely get, I think, 3 XE support cards or something like that.
And the thing is, like, you have to get the XCs out first anyway.
Yes.
So
And it's all their support is about stacking materials, which is great. It's what the archive's about. But without the second main monster, half the quick play spells need a monster on the field to activate their effect, and just feels like they didn't. It feels like they finished the archetype and said, "This archetype is finished. Let's split it up."
Magic-E had the exact same problem when Magic-E first came out in Dawn of Majesty. Because I built them and they were fun. They just weren't any good. They had one normal monster, and the rest were fusions, rituals, synchros. Well, synchro wasn't even out then; it was fusions. So you had one main deck monster, and the other 2 were rituals. So it just felt janky. And then later down the line, you had the second main deck monster. Still only 2, and it just doesn't make sense, because I understand something like Sky Striker, where the gimmick is really just run Ray, 37 spells or whatever. That's how it was initially meant to be played. Magic is not meant to be played like that. Purely is not meant to be played like that. Like, give it the monsters it needs to play. For an identity, because right now, if it can't fucking play, what's its identity?
Right, so they've got a field spell, and it helps it recur and grind. If they put that in 2 sets from now and gave me the other monster, they'd be a lot more runnable. They wouldn't be good, because they wouldn't, once the monsters leave the field, they'd have no way to recur and build back a board. But at least I could get more XCs on the field. And I'd rather that. I'd rather have something I can play and I can test, and I can say, oh, I can play this. I'll lose, but I can still play it. But right now, it's like, why am I playing it if I can't get a monster out? If I get a monster out, there's a chance I can win. I just can't get a monster out.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I get you with that.
And it's just frustrating.
It's frustrating, because we used to look forward to deck build sets so much. We had a thing where it's like, from now on, every deck build set will get a box.
Because all of them up to... it was the one with the snacks.
Ogdoadic, not Amazing Defenders. What was
Amazing Defenders just came out. No. Whatever it was. Ogdoadic.
Ancient Guardians.
Ancient Guardians. And up to Ancient Guardians, it was enjoyable. The Ancient Guardians was the worst deck build set they've ever done.
Okay, yeah. Those decks sucked. But I still think my least favorite deck build set, because of how it was constructed, was the Exosister set.
And they're fine. They're fine going head to head, because they were both shit sets.
They're both shit sets. So for different reasons.
For different reasons.
Ancient Guardians was just a bad set. Sulfur Cord sucked, Ogdoadic sucked, and Arctic sucked. Yeah. All 3 of them sucked. That's the reason why that set sucked. The reason why the Exosister set sucked isn't because of the decks. Like, obviously, Brave Token's really strong, Exosister's really strong, and Punk are a good engine in certain decks. But so much of that were existing Exector cards. They took so many of the rarity bump spots. It was like, why am I buying a deck build set when Exectors have existed for like 10 years at this point?
If I wanted Exectors, I would just buy Exectors.
Exactly. So that, to me, is the most egregious thing about that set.
It just feels like we've been let down by the last 3 deck build sets.
Yeah.
And now we went from, okay, we're going to get all the deck build sets. Because there's been older ones. Like, I didn't build Generator until 2 years after they came out or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it feels like, well, now I'm not interested in the next deck build set. Even if there's archetypes in there I like, it's like, well, I'm just going to get fucked over.
Well, the next one has phenomenal art. We're excited for all of them.
Yeah.
It's the Dino, it's the Punch, and it's the Boogeyman. The Chef Boogeyman looking thing.
Yeah.
Super cool art.
Yeah.
Yet to see how it will come to fruition.
Yeah.
But we are both excited for it.
Yeah, but now I'm like, well, do I even bother? It's just going to fuck me over.
We don't have to buy a box, but it's going to be a thing where, like, we are going to look at it.
We're going to look at it, definitely, because we look at everything. But, like, I didn't buy a box of Amazing Defenders, but I still got fucked over.
Yeah.
Because I was excited.
Yeah. No,
and
you're
it makes
right,
me not want to be excited for anything but a mainline set. Because Konami don't fuck up on mainline sets. They'll have some mainline sets that aren't as big, that aren't as, like, game-changing, but they put effort and everything in the mainline sets. For the most part, makes sense. It just seems like they don't give as much care to the other sets.
I mean, mainline sets generally bump everything.
Yeah.
And there's always like a few things that it touches in our meta.
Yep.
And we're lucky enough to get those bumps. So, yeah, mainline sets are A tier deck build sets. The last few sets have been absolute dog water.
Just disappointing. Just
They've been
disappointing.
very disappointing.
It makes me not want to be excited.
Yeah.
Because
Which sucks because it's 3 brand new archetypes.
I know. And that's the thing we love the most is building new archetypes and building new decks and trying them out. Because that creates new interactions. Knowing that, like, you've got 15 decks. All those 15 decks will face purely for the first time. And that's a different dance for all of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But now I'm not excited.
Yeah. All right, well, that's the deck build sets. I do want to talk about one thing before we
Talk
wrap
about
up.
one more thing.
So the next big set coming out is Photon Hypernova, which
Correct.
is
Comes out in like a week.
big set for me personally. I'm not sure
Yes.
about how it affects
I think
you.
I'm getting 3 cards.
Okay. So one of my all-time favorite aesthetic archetypes are Galaxy Eyes. They've
Correct.
just been really bad. I've been testing them quite a bit a couple weeks ago. I haven't really touched them lately, but they've now can be ran as go first, go second, both extremely strong.
Okay.
Because they're one of the only decks where you get one monster out, you're pretty much guaranteed to win
Yep.
because of how strong it can get at like 12,000 attack.
Yep.
It's absolutely insane. So I'm very excited for Galaxy Eyes because of not the new XC's monster, but the way it helps me facilitate certain plays in one of the other XC's monsters,
The old
rank
ones.
4. It's going to be very, very exciting. So I'm excited, hopefully in a few weeks, for you to see when you get back from your trip, to see a new Galaxy Eyes.
100%.
That's
I am
not
excited.
just go second.
I'm excited.
And then Dogmatica comes back.
Yeah. Ritual Dogmatica.
Yeah, so they get Dogmatica Zoa, who is very good. He could have been absolutely busted,
Yeah.
but I think they over-controlled him a little bit.
They over-tweaked it. They
Yeah,
just under-tweaked him. They just like,
Yeah.
we don't want to make him too good just in case.
Yeah, because giving you the opportunity to choose the effect is never good.
Yes, you never want to give
Never
your
good.
opponent control.
No. But it's still good. It's a 4,000 attacker monster. I don't think you can target my Dogmatica monsters with card effects or some shit.
Yep.
Very, very good. Very, very easy to get out. The continuous spell is insane. It's essentially a search 2 from the deck, which is for no cost.
Yep.
Is absolutely insane. There's a lot of good cards. The new Tri Brigade card is cool. I don't have Tri Brigade anymore. But they were cool. Like there's a lot of cool cards in this set that has me excited. And if we had some of the old decks that we had, they'd be getting a boost as well.
Yeah. 100%. Like I think there's 2 new Sword Soul cards in this, which I desperately need.
Yes.
I don't think there's too much else, but the Trap Tricks deck comes out. The Trap Trick Structure deck comes out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So when I come back from my holiday, we'll have Dogmatica, New Sword Soul, Trap Tricks, Galaxy Eyes.
Galaxy Eyes.
We're gonna have like
4 decks.
4. Just that we're remembering now, we're gonna look at there's like 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, and hopefully Pearly will be able to be
Nope.
purely. Oh, okay, not at all.
It's
Still shit.
cyber access or whatever.
Cyberstorm access. God damn.
I'm pretty sure. I'll check
Yeah.
again because purely Lily, I think it is. I'm pretty sure that's cyber access,
Yeah.
which means I have to wait 3 months.
Look, hopefully it'll be worth the wait. Like you said, forever deck.
I haven't looked, so maybe it's in this set, but
No, I don't think it would be. They generally don't print support cards in like the next set.
yeah, because that would make too much sense.
Too much sense, right?
That would be too good to place.
But they will print a rarity bump version in the
Yeah,
OTS a week
so
later.
X Purely Happiness, right, was the only purely extra deck card in rare. The rest was super or ultra for the X Pureleys. And the OTS packs just got announced and leaked, and they've already got a rarity bump. X Purely already is super.
A week later.
Yep. And some of the Kashtira cards that are coming out in Photon Hypernova are getting a rarity bump in the OTS pack.
Weird. I don't know if that's been a thing before. Maybe it has. Because
It hasn't.
it hasn't?
It hasn't. People are like, this is weird. It literally just came out.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a set behind, cool. Whatever.
They've
right?
really just printed it twice.
Literally printed it twice within like a month of each other.
That's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck it. Money, right? Who cares?
We're
it's
all
weird.
guinea pigs to the fucking Konami gods. Whatever.
All right.
It is what it is.
Well, that about wraps it up for the episode of the Misplay podcast. We hope you guys have enjoyed everything we've put out. It's been a bit more consistent this year in 2023, trying to go for 1 video a week to
Absolutely.
not burn ourselves out.
For the first half of 2022, we were pumping out videos. We're really trying to get the channel done. The second half, schedule slowed. Bit of burnout, this, that, and the third was busy. Life happens. But then Obviously, we've seen a good resurgence over the December period in January, so we're just trying to pump out more content again.
Yeah. But not burn ourselves out.
Yeah,
That's
not
been a
burn
key
us.
thing.
We're not
Yeah.
going to do 4 episodes a week, but if we can do 1 a week, great, perfect, right? You know, there's a lot of content on YouTube, and 1 a week is great. Pay attention to the channel. Maybe we put out every once in a while. We might do a sneaky Brucey bonus episode.
Yeah, maybe.
But we'll see, you know.
Maybe. Cool. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed it. Continue to let us know, you know, what your thoughts are on the deck builds. Some of you have been leaving amazing tech card recommendations.
Yes.
Someone suggested Golem Ruri in Spirit Charmer, and I've never thought about that before. And it does provide protection from the hand.
Spellcasters. Yeah, no
Yeah.
shit.
And I've never thought about that. So
Yeah.
shout out to you, one guy that did recommend that, because
We-
I may play around with that.
We read every comment.
Yes.
We
absolutely.
read every comment.
Even the hate comments.
Even I love the hate comments. Send them through. I've been saying that since the low block.
Yeah, no.
Send
you
me
have.
hate.
Yeah, hate mail. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of hate mail.
No, we have everyone who watches that content is lovely.
Yeah, no, absolutely lovely. So
Almost all of them.
90%, 99% of you guys.
Yeah, the 1% you know who you are.
So shout out to you guys,
Yeah.
and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Doses.